Austria surprised me. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video of Read the World project. So normally my videos are in Arabic, but this is going to be in English for reasons that I might or might not share. So speaking about Austria, I was a bit worried, small countries, and normally with small countries, it's a little bit more difficult to find like books which are like famous or available that could be interesting. But then when I searched Austria, I figured that already three of the authors that I really like are Austrian: Viktor Frankl, Franz Kafka, and Rainer Maria Rilke. So I'm going to go over these three authors a bit quickly because I really find them all interesting. Starting with Viktor Frankl because he's most known and possibly you've already heard of him and of his book. So the first book is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. This book is quite known. It's a nonfiction book, more into the psychology realm of things. Viktor Frankl, he was a doctor, psychiatrist, and he was also a prisoner in the concentration camps of Nazi Germany. So he speaks a little bit about his time as a prisoner and also then delves deep to this science that he founded, which is called logotherapy. And he speaks of how finding meaning in life can really get us through anything. It's very convenient for us currently as Sudanese with everything that's happening. The second author I want to talk about is Franz Kafka. Franz Kafka is my guy, really, and I'm gonna tell you why. So Franz Kafka's book, from my perspective, are important and interesting because he delves deep into the human condition and not particularly from an optimistic point of view. He's very honest and he's very vulnerable in his writings, and many times he delves into the dark sides of being human. The first is the Metamorphosis, and maybe you've already heard about it. It's the story of a man who wakes up one day to find that he had been transformed into an insect, a cockroach perhaps, and then he just goes about speaking of how this man continues to be in his home with his family and how that family bonds sometimes are not forever, and maybe the people around you are not going to like you if you become an insect. And he wasn't able to speak as an insect. I think it's a great read to consider our existence in the environment and the places we find ourselves in from a different perspective. The second book of Franz Kafka, which I really love, is Letters to Milena. This book is basically love letters between Franz Kafka and Milena, and it's true. Everything in this book is true. Honestly, I feel a little bit guilty reading this book and talking about it because it was published after Kafka died, and it was his friend who got the book published, so I don't know how Kafka feels about it. This book is amazing in terms of speaking of love and romance and the internal processes that goes inside someone's heart and soul when they're going through a romantic relationship. For me, I've always thought that the book speaks of how Kafka and Milena turned from strangers to acquaintances to lovers to acquaintances to strangers. So it's a full circle. It speaks of how someone starts losing themselves in someone else, and really the turmoil of emotions and thoughts that comes with experiencing romantic love of such nature. So he says, by the way, why am I a human being? It all determines this extremely vague and horribly responsible condition entails. Why am I not, for example, the happy wardrobe in your room, which has you in full view whenever you're sitting in your chair or at your desk or when you're lying down or sleeping? All blessings upon your sleep. Why am I not that? Because I would break down with grief if even I had seen your misery during these last days, or even if you should leave Vienna. He also says, whenever I am, there are you too, and even more intensely. So it's really great. It's not an easy read, but I definitely recommend it. The last book that I want to talk about is by Rainer Maria Rilke, Letters to a Young Poet. And I also really like this book. And it also happens to be letters from Rilke to a young poet. So it's really nice for everyone considering making art, the process of creating art in its various forms, and the discipline it needs and entails, and the process and the solitude. And of course, because he's a poet, he writes it in a really beautiful manner. The style is amazing. It's a short book, but it's really beautiful, and it's just a relaxing experience, and sort of give comfort in the fact that creating art and just going through life in general is a process that needs intentionality, and it needs discipline, and it needs a little bit of solitude from time to time. So I highly recommend it. These were all the books from Austria that I wanted to share with you today. Thank you for watching, and see you in the upcoming book about Azerbaijan. Bye bye.